That's such a hard question.
Shall I have a go?
Yeah, go on.
Right, well, if you think that your job to inspire children is to make it so that stories and poems and writing is catching, it's like an illness. So these are germs. So the best thing to do is to have contact with each other. That's the best way. Germs like that, we come into contact with each other, we sneeze on each other, and then you go, oh, I've caught that cold. And it's just the same with stories. You've got to make it so it's infectious. Now, what's the best way to make stories and poems infectious? Well, one way is reading out loud. Another one is getting children to share things, as you do quite often in pairs, in groups, and so on. Encourage them to talk and talk and talk about stories. You know, so if you're reading a little poem or a story, break off halfway through and let's have a conversation about what might happen next. So all the time you're trying to think of ways in which the mind of the child is active. All right. So it's, instead of asking questions that you, the teacher, know the answers to, try and think of questions you can't possibly know the answers to. Like, hey, does that remind you of anything? Yeah, that's one of the most interesting things about a story. It's not what's in the story; it's what's in your head. So you can say to a child, you say, God, you know, that story reminds me of a cat I once had. And then see what happens. And then everyone's got a cat, and everyone's got a dog, and everyone's got something to talk about, and then you go back to the story. So all the time, think of how you can make this stuff infectious. And the most infectious thing that we have as human beings is talk. So you make story and talk, story and talk, and that is the way to make it work. But you must fill the room with stories. You can't just simply say, oh, we'll have a storybook, or we'll have 2 books on the side that, if you're lucky, you can go and read at choosing time. You must fill your room with books and poems and stories. There must be a school library. Even the school minister thinks that's a good idea these days. So that's what you have to do.
I also think it has to be very positive. There's no point reading. I think reading aloud is very, very important. But the teacher's enthusiasm is really, really so powerful. Oh, yes. And it's no good reading a book that you don't like, that you don't enjoy, to children, because that will infect,
yes.
Carry on with your image, infect the children. So, and the same with the children's writing. When they are and I would always encourage children to read out what they're writing to the rest of the class, and always be positive. Pick out the things that you love best about, and there's always something that the child has written. But throw it back to the class. Say, what part of that story do you think I loved the best? Which part shone for you? And encourage them always to look for the good parts.